My name is Catherine Preston. I'm one of the programmers at the Philadelphia Film Society. We are so excited to have Apples in our lineup this year. I think it's such a special, incredible movie. So I'm so excited that we have it. And I am joined now with Christos Nikou, the director. So welcome.
Thank you very much for the invitation. And it's an honor for me to participate in Philadelphia Film Festival. And yes, I'm here to discuss about the movie.
Great. So yeah, I thought we could just get started. Clearly, the whole concept of memory and memory loss is, such a central part of the movie. And I would love to hear from you just how that idea sort of formed for you and eventually came to be this movie.
In general, I always love to watch movies that create a dark world. And I love watching movies, that create worlds that are a little bit surreal, change the rules of our society, and create something different, but not very different from the worlds that we live now. Are more allegorical in a way. And so the idea came to me around 8 years ago, and we started writing it 6 years ago. It was a moment that I was trying to deal with the loss of my father, but I couldn't. And I was trying to understand how selective is our memory, why people forget so easily, and if we will erase something that hurt us, are we going to lose our existence? And could it be that we are the things we don't forget? Because in a way, we are our memories. So all these questions were in my mind, and I tried to transfer my personal story to an ecumenical one, universal one, and we created this world and Apples.
Yeah. And then I would also love to hear your choice to film it in the 4:3 aspect ratio. And then also the color palette, it just feels, very much like a Polaroid, which Polaroids are obviously a big part of the movie as well.
Yes, we selected to make use of 4:3 aspect ratio because, first of all, it's the academic ratio. And it's, that it's a ratio that is almost forgotten. The last years, a lot of filmmakers are using it, but for many years, nobody was using it. It's related in a way with Polaroid, that is a square ratio. And exactly, we try to make the color palette looks a little bit like to have this aesthetic, this sense of Polaroid and a little bit more vintage sense. And also, we selected the 4:3 aspect ratio because for me, it's a portrait ratio. It's a ratio that we are using for portraits, and in that way, you can go a little bit more close to the human and have a more anthropocentric approach to the film. And it's something that when was discussing it with my DOP, we never see that again in a high concept movie, in a dystopian movie before. I know that this year there is another movie that, that from Charlie Kaufman that uses again 4:3 aspect ratio, which is also a high concept movie.
Mm-hmm. Well, so then I'm curious, it doesn't feel like it's not a movie that's in the future. It's not a movie that's necessarily in the past. It's sort of this alternate, very analog reality. There's no presence of like social media, stuff like that. How do you feel about social media technology and how it sort of inundates our everyday life, whereas in this movie it is almost completely gone?
We try to make a comment on the social media in a way, because first of all the missions that all the tasks that our main hero has to reenact on a daily basis, the treatment, that he follows from the doctors, it's in a way, if you will think, it's in a way how people behave with social media, because most of the times people watch, for example, something like exactly right now in TikTok challenges or in Instagram campaigns, you can feel that people care more about taking a photo than to live the moment. And most of the times they are using a Polaroid filter and then upload them in a digital album, which is exactly what our hero is doing, but in an analog way. He takes a photo with a Polaroid camera and then put it in a normal album, a photo album. And in general, we decided to, most of the dystopian movies are a little bit futuristic and distant. And we felt that it would be more powerful if we stayed more close to home. So that's why we made it timeless, but in a sense that is a little bit more in the past. And we selected all this analog and vintage approach. As I also believe that the technology has made our brain lazier, because there is no need to save something in your mind anymore. If you want to go from one place to another, probably you will use Google Maps. I mean that you can't remember something anymore. You can't remember things so easily. And in a way, we have stored our data in devices, and most of the time in devices from the company Apple, which is also an irony about the title. That's why we called it Apples.
Yeah, that's great. And to go back to what you were saying before, I do find it so interesting, the moments where your character comes to life the most is not when he's taking photos of himself, he's on the bike, he's, but the moments, or even, getting a lap dance or going to see a film, there's like no enjoyment in that. It's really the moments where he's not participating, where he's just sort of feeling the music and dancing, or he's grieving the loss of this older man. So I find that really interesting that the moments are outside of that sort of experiment of taking the photo challenges or whatever, if you will.
Yes, because in a way you can't live a moment when somebody else asks you to live it. You have to live it by yourself. So yes, that's why he behaves like that. And also, he doesn't belong in this world in a way. I mean that in the life that they are trying to make him live in, he doesn't belong. That's why his trousers are shorter. That's why the bicycle is very small. Also, he doesn't like the lap dance. That's why he wears the astronaut suit, because he's coming from another Earth, maybe.
I would love to talk about the casting process, because I think that in a lot of ways this role was difficult because it's so eternalized, and it's very subtle. It almost reminded me of a character from a Bresson movie in that way. Like, it's so understated, but at the same time, there's so much that's clearly going on, and I could really feel that. And the emotion was just sort of behind the eyes. That's hard. That's really difficult. How did you find someone that could do that so so wonderfully?
I like that you mentioned Bresson, because he's my favorite director.
Oh.
I love all his movies.
Yeah.
And I worked with Aris, that's his name, the main protagonist, in my short film that I did before. And in a way, I always admire him a lot as an actor, because I love the way that he performs, because he performs in a very minimalistic way. And I think that less is more, always. And he performs also a lot with his body language, which is very strong, because he was working also as a dancer in the past.
Okay.
And so we tried with my co-writer because we knew from the beginning that he will be the main actor, to write everything, every move that he's doing in the movie, because we knew exactly what he can do. Mm-hmm. And the two things that I asked him before the rehearsals was to screen some movies of Jacques Tati. And of
That's my
favorite director. Okay, perfect. I love Tati, of course. Yes, I asked him to watch Jacques Tati and two movies with Jim Carrey, Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and The Truman Show, and to combine these two different performances. And that was the result.
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned Eternal Sunshine, because it sort of feels like a similar topic, but sort of in reverse.
Exactly. Yes, it's a movie that I love. It's one of my favorite movies. So yes.
Yeah, same. I recently revisited it, and it's a very special movie to me. That's so interesting to me, because as I was watching it, I really do get this sense that, you know, I can see your appreciation for cinema. I felt the Bresson, and I did also feel a Tati-esque character, and sort of like a sort of Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin, that sort of,
Exactly, and a little bit of Buster Keaton, yes, because he has this melancholy in his eyes that it's
yeah.
more close to Buster Keaton. But in a way, we are, first of all, because you are, sorry, because but you are telling me about all these movies. Before, from people that we are professionals in this industry, we are people that we love cinema and we are watching cinema. So that's our passion. So, yes.
Yeah, it makes sense. But also, much like a Chaplin or a Keaton or whatever, there is also the melancholy, as you said. And you know, I really admired that the film never went too into the comedic absurdist, but it also never went too into the tragic. It was this really beautiful balance between the two. And I know you've spoken about that in other interviews, that, you know, nothing can be all tragic, nothing can be all comedic, but how did you keep that balance?
Um, at the beginning, the first draft of the script was much more comedic because we tried to make everything look like a comedy. And then I was trying to find exactly the right balance, because the main topic of the movie is very tragic. If you will think about it, I mean, a war that people forget, and also a guy that has to face a loss. Um, so we tried in a way to build these two different elements, because our life is mixed by tragic and comic elements. So I don't think that I could ever direct something without comedic elements in. So we tried exactly to find the right balance that people can laugh at the first half of the movie more and can be moved at the second half of the movie more. It's not easy, but we try to do it in a way that I hope that it works.
I mean, it really did. As I was watching it, I just had this like overwhelming sense of just like this love for this character. Even, you know, 5 minutes into the movie, I was just like, nothing bad has to happen to this person because I just love him so much. But there were so many moments that just really tickled me as well. So yeah, it works. Definitely works. Um, but so this is a really bizarre and interesting time to be debuting your first film. I know that you have had the chance to be places physically, but have you been doing a lot of sort of what we're doing now over Zoom? Like, how has that been?
Yes, yes, I have been only in Venice, to be honest. I didn't travel more, even if the movie have already participated in something like 15, 20 film festivals, but I didn't have the chance. It is strange, to be honest. It is very strange that I cannot see the reactions of the audience. I'm receiving um, a lot of messages, which is nice, really nice, and I can understand and feel a little bit how the audience react. But I don't know. Maybe it gives me some, to be honest. I was feeling that, you know, when a director finishes his first film, especially, he has to travel for 1 year or for 1 year and a half almost every week to a different festival. And this whole year, you can't work on a next project. And so I had the time to work on the next project. That's what I'm doing.
It's true. It does give you that space and time to, you know,
Yes.
work on stuff. So that's true.
Yes.
And then I just also want to hear a little bit about like, to what extent is the idea of like wanting to forget versus actually forgetting and having no control over that? How did that play in for you? Like, is there a desire to just sort of wipe the slate clean in a way?
I have a very good memory as a person in general. So for me, it's very hard to forget things, and very hard to forget things that hurt me. I don't know why, but I can't erase things from my mind. So But from the other hand, I'm happy that I cannot erase them because all these have built who I am. So it's in a way, we are, as I said before, we are our memory. So don't know.
I know it's kind of a strange question, but I was just thinking like, it's sort of like the eternal sunshine question of like, if you had the chance to erase something, would you? It's just but as that movie goes to prove, and as yours does as well, I think, those tragic things that we feel like we might want to forget. And, you know, this character does go on to return to the tragedy, right? And embrace.
Yes, but in a way with hope. I mean that even if he returns to the tragedy and even if he accepts his past and the loss, in a way he accepts it, but he can make a restart in a way. He's there in order to make a restart at the end.
Yeah, right.
It depends. It depends. Every person can take it in a different way. That he will return to his house and will live with the memory of his wife forever, or that he accepted it and he will find another way to deal with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. What was your interpretation on that?
No, I mean, I think that's one of the great things about that sort of whole third act and the very end. It just sort of, you really can take from it what you want. And yeah, I don't know, because he's such an understated character in so many ways, we never really know what he's thinking at any given time, really. And I also just love the switch he makes from apples to oranges. I thought that was great. How many apples do you actually have to go through in filming? Because that's a lot of apples.
A lot. I love eating apples too. And as I said before, that because I started writing that script when I was trying to deal with the loss of my father. I mean that one reason that we used apples is because apples can improve your memory. That's true. And then, as I said, for the company apples, which is an irony about this. And then my father used to eat a lot of apples. He was eating around 7 to 8 apples per day. Yes, a lot of apples, and he had an amazing memory. And so that was at the beginning how I started searching about apples, if can improve your memory. And yes, and then I found this, and it's a battle between apples and oranges, the movie, and apples win at the end.
Well, thank you so much. Unless there's anything else you would like to add, this has been such a wonderful conversation to have. Such a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining, and please enjoy the rest of your evening.
Yes, you do enjoy the rest of the day.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.